The intercom clicked once during lockdown, and a voice whispered my name. It was not the principal, and it was not coming from the speakers. I was a year 14 student when it happened, old enough to understand drills and procedures, but still young enough to believe they would always keep us safe. It was a humid Thursday afternoon, the kind where the corridors smelled faintly of floor cleaner and warm paper. Our last period had just started when the tone sounded. 3 short beeps, lockdown, not a drill. Our teacher, Mr. Tan, froze for half a second before moving. He locked the door, pulled the blinds, and ushered us into the corner furthest from the windows. The classroom lights went off, and the room settled into a tense dimness, broken only by the red glow of the exit sign outside the glass panel. We sat shoulder to shoulder on the cold tiles, backpacks clutched to our chests. Somewhere down the corridor, a door slammed. At first there was confusion, whispers, phones buzzing as messages came in from parents who somehow knew before we did. Mr. Tan crouched near the door, his face pale, one hand resting on the fire extinguisher. He told us to stay quiet. He said help was coming. Minutes stretched. The air felt thick and every sound seemed amplified. The hum of the air conditioner, the distant echo of footsteps, the soft sniffing of someone trying not to cry. I remember thinking how strange it was that the school could feel so empty and so crowded at the same time. Then we heard knocking. It was slow and deliberate, coming from the classroom door. 3 taps, a pause, then 3 more. Mr. Tan shook his head at us, eyes wide, and raised a finger to his lips. The knocking stopped. We waited, barely breathing. Somewhere, a chair scraped against the floor. A muffled voice called out, calm and polite, asking to be let in. It sounded like a staff member, but something about the tone made my skin crawl. It was too careful, like someone imitating how they thought a teacher should sound. The voice moved on. I do not know how long passed before the intercom clicked again. We expected an announcement, maybe an all clear. Instead, there was only static. Then, very softly, someone spoke. They said my name. Not the shortened version everyone used, but my full name, pronounced perfectly. I felt every eye in the room turn towards me. Mr. Tan stared at the speaker above the whiteboard as if it might start bleeding. The voice repeated my name, closer this time, as though leaning into the microphone. It told me to come to the office. It said my mother was waiting. I did not move, I could not. My heart was hammering so loudly I was sure it would give me away. Mr. Tan reached up and tore the intercom cable from the wall. The sudden silence was worse. From the corridor came footsteps. Slow, unhurried, stopping just outside our door. The handle rattled gently. Not someone trying to break in, but someone testing, listening. A shadow passed under the gap at the bottom of the door. Someone laughed, very quietly. A bang echoed from the far end of the building, followed by shouting. The footsteps retreated. We stayed frozen, counting breaths, counting seconds. When the police finally escorted us out hours later, the sun was already low, casting long orange bars across the floor. They told us there had been a security breach. A man had entered the school posing as maintenance staff. He had fled before they could catch him. No one was hurt. Classes were cancelled for the rest of the week. Counselors were brought in. Life, slowly, returned to normal, except for me. That night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of our classroom door, taken from the corridor. Underneath a single line of text read that I should have listened. The police traced the number. It led nowhere. The photo was deleted from my phone without explanation. They suggested it was a cruel prank, a coincidence, stress playing tricks on my memory. But sometimes, even now, years later, I wake up thinking I hear 3 slow taps. And in the moments just before sleep, when the house is quiet and the air feels heavy, I am certain I can hear the intercom click, waiting to speak my name again. The lockdown alarm went off halfway through a sentence, and I remember thinking it sounded wrong. Not louder or faster, just wrong, like it had learned how to breathe. I was teaching 8th grade English on the 3rd floor, the classroom overlooking the basketball courts. It was raining hard enough that the windows rattled, and the students were restless, glancing outside at the gray blur of the afternoon. When the alarm sounded, every conversation died instantly. The automated voice followed, flat and calm, announcing a lockdown, not a drill. Training took over. I locked the door, switched off the lights, and pulled the curtains. The students moved without protests, crouching along the back wall, knees tucked in, shoes squeaking softly against the tiles. One boy asked what was happening. I told him to stay quiet. I did not know what else to say. At first there was only rain and the distant echo of doors slamming as other teachers secured their rooms. My phone buzzed with messages from the staff group chat, fragmented and panicked. Unknown person on campus. Security compromised, police en route. We waited. The rain softened, leaving an unnatural quiet. I realized how loud a school usually was, even when it tried to be silent. Now, every small sound felt like a mistake. Someone shifted their weight. A chair creaked. I held my breath until my chest ached. Footsteps came from the stairwell. They were slow, heavy, and uneven, as if whoever was walking did not care who heard them. The steps stopped outside our classroom. I could see the shadow of shoes beneath the door. Someone stood there for a long time. Long enough that my legs began to shake. Then the handle turned. It did not rattle. It did not force itself. It turned once, gently, testing the lock. When it did not open, the person on the other side exhaled. I heard it clearly, a long breath released right against the wood. A voice followed, low and almost friendly. It said my name, not loudly, not urgently, just enough that I knew it was meant only for me. My students stared at me, eyes wide, waiting for guidance. I did not respond. I could not. I had never told anyone at school my full name. The voice said it again, this time with a slight laugh, as though amused by my silence. The footsteps moved on. Minutes later, screams echoed from somewhere below us. A chair scraped, glass shattered. One of my students began to cry. Hands pressed over her mouth as I pulled her closer, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might tear free. The intercom crackled to life. At first it was only static. Then a male voice came through, distorted but familiar. It identified itself as the vice principal, instructing teachers to remain in lockdown. Halfway through the announcement, the voice faltered. There was a pause, a sharp intake of breath, and then the tone changed completely. The voice began listing names, not randomly. It named students in our class, one by one, in the exact order of the seating plan. When it reached the last name, it stopped. Silence filled the room. Then the voice said it was outside, and it knew where we were hiding. I unplugged the intercom, my hands slick with sweat. The sudden quiet was suffocating. Something scraped along the corridor floor, slow and deliberate. It sounded like metal dragging against tiles. The noise stopped directly outside our door. A shape passed beneath a gap, blocking what little light remained. There was a soft knock, 2 taps, a pause, 2 more. A different voice spoke this time, high and shaky. A student, a boy from another class. He begged to be let in, saying he was hurt. He said there was blood everywhere. He said the teachers were all gone. I recognized the voice. So did some of my students. One of them started to stand. I grabbed his arm and pulled him back down, pressing a hand over his mouth as he struggled. The voice outside sobbed, pleading, shifting closer to the door. Then it stopped. The sobbing turned into laughter, loud and uncontrolled, echoing down the corridor. The sound moved away, fading into the stairwell. We stayed locked in that room for nearly 3 hours. When the police finally escorted us out, the corridors were littered with overturned furniture and shattered glass. There was blood on the walls, smeared and drying, but no bodies. We were told there had been an intruder, that he had been apprehended, that no students were seriously injured. They never explained the voices. The vice principal was found unconscious in the control room. The intercom system smashed beyond repair. He had no memory of the incident. The boy whose voice we heard outside our door was found safe in another block, locked in a storeroom, untouched and confused. The school reopened 2 weeks later. Sometimes, when I stay late to mark papers, I swear I hear footsteps in the stairwell, slow and uneven. And every now and then, when the rain is heavy and the building settles into silence, the intercom above my desk clicks softly, as if someone is about to speak. The lockdown message came through in a voice I recognized, but the cadence was wrong, like it had been practicing how to sound human. When the lights went out, something knocked from inside the room. I was in grade 9th, last period of the day, stuck in the computer lab because it was the only room with working fans. The rain had started early, hammering the windows so hard that the glass vibrated. When the alert tone blared, a few of us laughed, assuming it was another drill. Then the automated announcement followed, clipped and calm, instructing all students and staff to initiate lockdown procedures immediately. Not a drill. Our teacher, Ms. Jones, did not hesitate. She locked the door, killed the lights, and pulled the heavy blinds down. The glow from the monitors dimmed to black as she shut them off one by one. We crouched between rows of desks, the smell of warm plastic and dust thick in the air. I remember the way the rain faded into the background, replaced by the sound of my own breathing. At first there were messages on our phones, whispers of someone seen near the general office. A security guard injured, police on the way. Ms. Jones collected our phones and placed them face down in her bag. She said the light could give us away. She said to trust her. The corridor outside fell silent. That was when the knocking started. Not on our door, on the walls. A hollow tapping that moved along the lab, slow and methodical, as if someone was checking each room in order. When it reached our door, it stopped. I felt the vibration through the floor, faint but deliberate. A voice spoke from the corridor, muffled by the wood. It asked if anyone was inside. It sounded young, breathless, scared. It said it was locked out. A few of my classmates shifted, recognizing the voice as someone from another class. Ms. Jones shook her head sharply and mouthed no. The voice changed. It dropped the panic, settling into something calm and almost bored. It said Ms. Jones' name. It thanked her for following procedure. It asked her to open the door so it could account for everyone present. The handle turned once, gently. When it did not open, the voice laughed, a short sound that did not reach its eyes, if it had eyes at all. Footsteps moved away. Minutes dragged by. The fans clicked off, leaving the room stifling. Sweat ran down my back. Somewhere in the building, a fire alarm chirped and died. Ms. Jones checked her watch again and again, as if time itself might save us. The intercom crackled. We expected instructions. Instead, a new announcement began, listing classrooms that had been cleared. It named teachers we knew, rooms we had passed that morning. Each confirmation ended with a soft tone. When it reached our block, the voice paused. It repeated the block number, slower this time, like it was reading something it did not quite understand. Then it named our room. Ms. Jones crossed the lab and yanked the intercom cable from the wall. The silence that followed felt heavy, like a held breath. Outside, something scraped along the tiles, a dragging sound that made my teeth ache. It stopped right outside our door. The lights flickered on. Not the overhead lights, the monitors. One by one, the screens glowed to life, illuminating the room in a cold blue wash. On each screen was the same image. The view from the corridor camera, angled down at our door. The timestamp in the corner ticked forward in perfect seconds. A shape stepped into frame. It stood too close to the camera, its features distorted, face stretching as it leaned in. It raised a hand and knocked. From inside the room, the sound matched the movement perfectly. Someone behind me stifled a sob. Text appeared across the screens, typed slowly, letter by letter. It said that it needed to check attendance. It said it would be quicker if we helped. The handle turned again, harder this time, rattling the lock. The camera feed shook. Ms. Jones grabbed a keyboard and slammed it against the nearest monitor. The screen shattered, sparks popping softly. One by one, students followed, smashing screens, ripping cables, plunging the room back into darkness. The knocking stopped. We stayed like that for what felt like hours. When the police finally arrived, they escorted us out with torches and shields. The corridor was a mess of broken glass and overturned bins. The cameras outside our room were intact, but the footage from the lab had been wiped clean. The technicians said there had been a power surge. They said systems sometimes behaved unpredictably under stress. No intruder was found. The school reopened after the holidays. The computer lab remained closed, labeled unsafe due to electrical damage. Sometimes, when I pass it, I swear I hear typing from inside, steady and patient, as if something is still finishing a list it started that afternoon.